on a potential segment. Maybe it's a Monday segment where you got to pick a genius, a goalie, and someone who was just a guy.
I think there's a lot of potential there.
There's a lot of potential to that absolute lunatic who said to me today while I was having lunch that Hayesy-B is a genius. That is just outrageous.
That is, again, staggering. Something I'm not overly comfortable with. I'll take it. I mean, I do think it's a compliment, and I appreciate that the masses out there support me. I think of you guys as more than just a goalie and a guy. And Noodles is, we're talking an NHL goaltender here. This isn't a beer league goalie we're talking about, and you're much more than a guy. You do things, right? You go to the gym and you play golf and stuff. I mean, there's a lot going on for you.
What do you mean? I'm a professional broadcaster.
That's right. Played in the NHL. There's a lot. You had -3 a few different times in your career.
Several
times in your career. But I saw you guys on the quiz last night, and I believe your answer was it Ryan O'Reilly you were talking about last night? Scott Lawton, that was your answer. Okay, it was Frankie who said Ryan O'Reilly. The question was that, which third-line center should the Leafs go out and try to acquire? And Ryan O'Reilly was Frankie's answers. Yours was Scott Lawton from Philly last night. And, we talked about that earlier in the week when they were playing Philly. Lawton's got another year on his deal. O'Reilly's got another year on his deal. The O'Reilly one, though, makes a lot of sense.
How many times does it work out a second time?
But that's what I was going to go to. I mean, he left for a reason. Like, by all accounts, they wanted to keep him. He chose not to be here. Now, maybe he would have a different feeling of it now that he's been gone for a year and a half. It's so ugly in Nashville. But that's a pretty big commitment. Like, he uprooted his family and said, we're going to Nashville, and we want to stay in Nashville.
And I love the guy, Hayesy. He's old school. He plays, he competes. But I just don't know the second time around bringing somebody back. Like John Ferguson Jr. bringing Yannick Perreault back for probably a third time.
Right.
Wendel always worked out, though. Wendel worked out always.
Well, Wendel came back like 2 times after he got traded.
2 or 3, man.
because he finished his career with the Leafs, I want to say in 01 or 02, and didn't play a ton. But you're right. The second time he came back was electric. Like, they were still playing at the Gardens at that point, and it's one of the cool. You know who's running the show that night? The game was on Global. Is the Tap Man, Jim Taddy was doing the reporting from the rink. It was Leafs on Global or whatever, and Taddy was doing the pregame. And we should find the clip. Joe from the Bridge, go find it. Wendel's return to the Gardens. I want to say they played Dallas.
The Tap Man.
And Tapman was there, on the floor at the Gardens, electricity in the building. Wendel's back. Jim Taddy setting the scene for Global back in the day.
I had an interesting transaction with our boy Chesko last night.
Yeah.
Kind of debated on sharing, but I'll share it. There's a bathroom with 2 toilets in it down there. It's in that hallway to Studio 6. Mm-hmm. You know which one I'm talking about?
I know what you mean, yeah.
So I thought that I had noticed that our boy Chesko, Frankie Corrado, had Under Armour shoes on last night. So
I know where this is going.
I had to go into this bathroom, and in comes a set of Under Armour running shoes. And I blurt out, and I don't know why I did, because if it's not Chesko, where does that leave me? Right?
Yeah.
So I go, Chesko? And, and he goes, yeah, brother.
Oh, it was him.
Yeah, it was him.
Oh, so okay, that's all good. I thought you were going to say it was someone who's Chesko? Then you're
dude. If I had heard who's Chesko, I don't know. I would have had a nervous breakdown and melted in that stall.
Yeah.
But there's another negative. Once he says, "Yeah, bro, it's Chesko," I'm like, where are we going to go from here?
Now, what are you doing? You're having a conversation in there? Do you think the Leafs are going to come back?
What are we going to do? Go over the pregame? Or why did I even – but he knew He saw my. I knew he knew it was me. So I blurt out Chesko, and as soon as I said Chesko, I'm like, if that ain't Chesko, I gotta leave immediately.
That's where I thought you were going. That someone was going to say, "I beg your pardon. I have no idea."
But it was equally weird, dude, when it was Chesko.
Yeah,
he's
it might
like,
be even
yeah,
more
brother.
awkward.
And then I thought to myself, well, where am I going to even take this convo from here?
Right. Oh, exactly. It's completely awkward for everybody, and you've established that. I mean, there's certain rules and regulations in there, man. It's wartime. Right, you go in there.
Dude,
everyone stick to yourself.
Put your hard hat on.
Yes.
And I didn't know what kind of. I don't know, man. It just could have went real south and awkward, and I had to get up and get out.
Yeah, you gotta leave that alone, man. You can't do that. You never ever acknowledge anyone. It's
I know.
It's like at a funeral. Like you're not. Hey, there he is. Like everyone is just
Jude,
head forward, and you get in and you get out.
Right, and I didn't know that this guy needed to get in on the forecheck and really,
right.
grind
I see
things.
what you mean. Yes. Okay, I got you. I hear you. Yeah, don't do that ever again.
Never.
Why is he wearing Under Armour shoes too? It was a suit game last night, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I guess
but you're under
with
the desk,
you
man.
can wear anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's true. You can wear anything you want. All right, here's our TSN hockey analyst, Mike Johnson, joining us here on the Maple Title Hotline. What's happening, Johnny?
What's up, boys? It's planes, trains, and automobiles trying to get out of Raleigh because of 2 inches of snow. The entire city and state shut down.
You have no idea, Johnny. I had my best friends and my brother come down for a golf trip, and they had the worst snowstorm in North Carolina history, and they were stuck there for 10 days. 10 days. There was a gas station 100 meters from my house. They cleaned this place out of Bud Lights. I'm not kidding. Every day they'd be walking back, each with 2 cases, and they just cleaned everything out.
That's basically what we were trying to avoid this morning, trying to get out of there. So it was just got into Pittsburgh for a game with Ottawa tomorrow, but all good after a pretty eventful night last night. A strange night in Raleigh for the Leafs. It was a weird start, and the top line just getting absolutely lit up, which doesn't really ever happen. It was a strange one.
That was incredible to watch, and you don't put 2 and 2 together when you're watching the game. I'm never thinking plus minus. I can't speak for you guys, but it's just not a stat that I'm like, oh, there's a minus. And Matthews, of course, scores on the power play, which doesn't count in terms of a plus minus. And he's on for all 6, and Marner's on for all 6, and they really play poorly. Like, they were directly involved in a couple of those. Like, I thought the empty net goal was a bit unlucky, but Auston was very careless, and the game ends, basically on his stick with Jarvis putting it away. But -6 is wild, Johnny. Like, that hasn't happened on the Leafs since Boxing Day 91 was the last time 2 forwards were -6 in the same game.
91. I was in high school in 91.
Exactly.
That's a long time ago. I mean, and obviously it's rare because it doesn't happen often, but it's even more rare and more peculiar given who it happened to. These guys who are just coming in absolutely rolling, lighting it up. They're on point streaks and piling up the points and everyone feeling great about themselves. And then they go into a game like that. And it's going to be a tough game. Carolina is hard to play against. We understand that. We know Jordan Staal is one of the best defensive players. We understand that. But still, it was, they just were getting hemmed in and, bad reads and bad clears and in front of the net and all of it. And it's one of those ones I'm like, you get it because Stahl's playing against them. Clearly, he's outscoring Auston, but you don't really kind of put it all together. I'm between the benches. I don't have a computer in front of me or anything. I'm like, yeah, Stahl's getting the better of them, which we made sure to show. Be like, goodness, -6, which of course, have we done the research? What is your worst? I had to check, like, what was my worst plus minus in my career? Apparently one time I was -4 in one game in my career. That was my career worst.
According to Joe from the Bridge, I was -3, but underneath he wrote several times, which I really appreciate.
So Johnny covered.
You got him. You beat Johnny. Johnny -4. That's worse than you,
Johnny, when you have a performance like that, I did this a bunch of times. I'm not sure if you ever did. But the next game, I would stand up and I'd say, boys, I got to be the best guy out there tonight. I'll lead the charge. Who would you think would say that? Is it a slam dunk who needs to say that or probably will say that come Saturday night?
It feels like it's 100% got to be Auston.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the captain. He's the best player. He is playing better. He does look like he's moving a little bit more freely. and he was so uncharacteristically off, and I think it's got to
all
start
of them
with him.
were,
Mitch
Johnny.
Mitch will be right in behind him. Morgan Rielly was on there as well, piling up the minuses. Matthew Knies, like the whole lot of them. But if you're asking me who's going to say it first and who should take the reins and take that role, I think it's got to be Auston. And I think the guys would want to hear it. And I would expect them to be. I mean, they got Vancouver, tomorrow night? And Vancouver's playing Carolina tonight, so they're going back-to-back. It's a tough travel. I just chronicled. So I would expect them to be pretty good tomorrow night because it was so strange. And the way it started with the two early goals for Toronto, you think it's going to be a track meet. Toronto's skating awesome. They're creating goals. Will's got breakaway after breakaway, and then it all just came apart. And there's two parts of the story, though. One is Toronto playing poorly, and that's what we're going to talk about. But also, that was a reminder of what Carolina can look like when they're good. Like when they get going and that forecheck gets rolling, all those big guys in front of the net, they can be a problem. And that's also part of the story.
Well, in terms of Matthews, and you mentioned it, you saw it up close and personal, and he looks like he's moving better. Is there anything in particular that's on your radar, Johnny, that you are looking for or you were looking for in the way that he's playing that would allow you to breathe a little bit easier than maybe you were a month ago based on what he was looking like?
Yeah, so that was the first time I'd seen him play live since he's come back the second time. And I wanted to see sort of what his top speed felt like. It's hard to tell when you're watching right there. Like whether it's just more like, is he winning races? Is he getting there fractionally early? That was the one part about it. And I thought he generally looked like he had a bit more jump in his step that way, even though he didn't play great. But like early on, going up and down the ice, he looked like he had it. But the other thing to me, Hayes, that is maybe as important for him is how he kind of stops, starts, comes out of corners and protects the puck. Because that's where he is, like, literally one of the best people in the league. And, he just stops, pivots, gets you on his back, and then he, a couple strides, and he's got some freedom to make a play. And that was not there as often this year. And you kind of get knocked over or knocked off stride. A guy would close on him. And so I didn't see as much of that, but that's sort of the thing that I'm watching for going forward is sort of how quickly he gets in and out of his turns and his puck protection, because that's also what he's very good at.
You think the coach just says, I'm putting the same lineup back out there and you better just be better? One of those burn the tape things, Johnny? Or do you think Morgan Rielly has got another partner, which is a whole story on its own? I think Morgan's just got to play better. He's a friend of the show. He's a big boy. He's been around a long time. I think he's got to play better. But as far as the coach, you just said get back out there and redeem yourself?
I mean, for the big guys, yes. But they sat out Pacioretty, they sat out Reeves. They have options floating around that they can use if they want. And I imagine Max Pacioretty probably plays against Vancouver. Brian Reeves, I'm not so sure. But the defense was curious, though, right? Because it seemed as though with McCabe going out, it was going to be Tanev and OEL together, and then Rielly was going to get Myers and just sort of manage how it went, and then the Timmins and Benoit out there. But to put Tanev with Rielly, which they've had good results, but Morgan Rielly, I think it's clearly established he's not a great defenseman. What he's good at is puck movement and creating points and offense, and he sort of manages the defensive side while trying to really be good on the offensive side. But he struggled. He struggled to find partners. He hasn't been great, with OEL. Unless he was with Tanev this year, his numbers haven't been that good. They've been okay with Myers in a short little stint. I thought they would stay with that. I'm surprised that, Morgan went to Tanev, and it obviously didn't go very well for them, but I'm surprised they switched that up because I thought Myers and him were good enough to kind of survive for a little bit and let Ekman-Larsson, who, again, I think he's done well for what he was brought in to do. Feels like he's getting a bit of the mid-season fatigue kicking in. Like he's played a lot late, obviously won a cup last year. I feel he looks like a little bit tired. Some of his reads, some of his foot speed stuff has gotten away from him. So all of a sudden the very stingy Leafs are not quite so stingy when it comes to chances and goals again.
Johnny, most normal people have to, I said it in the pregame show, they got to drive the net and get one off their ass, and then they start feeling good about themselves. Getting 3 breakaways in 4 minutes is not exactly normal to get off the schneid. That was pretty crazy, huh?
It was. But you know what it's like, when you play with players like this, where they are sort of rush players, like Malkin, right? He's a perfect guy. Like when he gets a couple looks early, skating in open ice, you're like, oh no. He's like the opposition's in for a bad night. because he just gets feeling it. And that's exactly what happened. Even though Willie rang the post in the first 2-on-1, then he missed the next breakaway. You're like, but he's flying. He wants the puck all the time. He's totally engaged in what's going on because he's getting these chances early. But I mean, 3 clean virtual breakaways, 2 breakaways and 1 almost breakaway in 6 minutes? It's unheard of. But I was dropped on me. He's got 8 breakaways this year, which makes him 4th most in the league. So it's not like he's never been down that road. But to have that many that soon against that team was abnormal.
With Mike Johnson, you mentioned Ryan Reeves and him not being in the lineup last night. No certainty he'll play tomorrow. What is your belief of that? What do you think his role is going to look like, and how much is he even going to play? Considering he hasn't fought yet this year, we know the offensive play is just simply not going to be there. I thought they put him in the other night in Philly, thinking, okay, you're probably going to fight Hathaway. It didn't happen. Farabee ends up fighting Dewar. Like, what is the purpose of Ryan Reeves moving forward on this team?
Well, I mean, I want to be respectful. Here,
what I mean by that is can they find a role for him to
like,
role for him? Yes,
there's not a real role for him because if the idea is okay, there's the fighting side, which we're all going to acknowledge he's a great fighter and very good at that. He never does it because nobody wants to fight again, and there's nobody in the league that sort of does that anymore. So he's left without partners. And he's too honorable to go grab Garnet Hathaway and beat him up, which sometimes
it's crazy, Johnny, how that blew up last year. It blew up last year where it was like everyone's getting a tough guy, and what did it last for? A couple months?
But it was about this time, right? It was about this time where last year Reeves had a tough first half, and then he got hurt.
Jersey got McDermott, and then Rempe showed up, and Olivier, and it's like, oh my God, everyone's going to have a tough guy again, and then it just seemed to go up in smoke.
No, yeah, it just doesn't work. And then the other part about it is, okay, well, if you're not going to fight, then you got to be sort of physical, right? Like in the 7 minutes you're going to play, you got to run into guys, you got to get into the forecheck. And the challenge is, like everybody who gets older, he's not quite fast enough to get in and be a presence in that way. To the point where, if I'm a defenseman, I don't want to get hit by Ryan Reeves, but I don't mind playing against Ryan Reeves because he's not fast enough to get me, to cause me problems. So then what's he left with, Hayes? He clearly is well-liked, well-respected, energy in the room. Is it strictly sort of morale and energy and locker room presence? And if that's the case, then you probably do that in the locker room and don't get to play very often, which is maybe if they get guys coming back healthy, where he's headed, unfortunately for him.
So you mentioned now you're in Pittsburgh. Ottawa, they're on the road for 9 games. They come home, play Buffalo, gets skunked last night. They lose 4-0.
Booed off the ice.
Booed off the ice, and now they got to go down to Pitt. And Pitt looked really good against Edmonton last night. And ever since Ottawa got into that playoff spot, they're 1-5-1 in their last 7 games. And Allmark's not coming to help them. It's not going to happen anytime soon.
His pink scarf, his $3,000 scarf.
Yeah, it doesn't seem likely that he's – and again, last night wasn't necessarily a goaltending issue. They didn't score. But feels like a watershed moment here tomorrow. Like Pittsburgh's fighting with Ottawa for that second wildcard spot. Ottawa's got to figure this out. And if they don't, man, that fan base has a reason to turn on them again.
And they have a reason to be skeptical, right? Because this team has sort of let them down and found ways to not achieve what they think they should for years. And it feels like these next 2 weeks are kind of tipping point moments where they got to get together, or they might find themselves maybe 6 points out, but with 7 teams ahead of them. Like the bottom of the East is so bunched up. It's not even going to be about how many points you are behind. It's going to be about how many teams you have to leapfrog over to get back to where you want to go. So, yeah, it's an issue. I think Allmark gave them a ton of confidence. And the fact of the matter is, kind of like Auston Matthews, back spasms, it's been 3 weeks. He's not even back on the ice yet. And at some point, you're gone so long, you can't even just sort of, my back's better, I'm going to play now. Now you got to get back in shape before you get to play. So that's another whatever week or 8 days of practice while you're trying to get yourself ramped up so you don't do it again. It's a challenge. And then the offense has gone completely dry. They're just confidence, power play, all of it has just sort of gotten away from them. Probably some fatigue, 9 games away, even if it's broken up by Christmas, that's a long time. It's 3 weeks on the road, and it grinds on you. And you're not having success, it grinds on you. So it's a big game tomorrow. It's a big sort of next 10 to 14 days for Ottawa to stay with it, win some games, and stay with the pack.
Johnny, I get it. There's a salary cap, and I get it. There's certain restrictions. There's number of contracts per team. But are you somewhat shocked that there's not some deals made? As if the Bruins couldn't use a shakeup. As if the Ottawa Senators couldn't use to add a guy some spark to create a spark. And Hayes has been barking about it for years. It's better for the game when your team has a transaction. People are just ready and willing to watch their team kind of sink or swim, and they're like, nah, that's what our team is. I don't know. It drives me nuts.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to make deals of consequence for the reasons we all know. But I think the other part about it is that it's so close. Like Boston, yeah, but sometimes you need teams to sort of be out of it. And who in the East?
Yeah, but I'm not talking about selling the farm, Johnny. I'm talking about maybe the Sens saying, let's go pick up a good player if we can. Is that just impossible to do, to try to get a good player on your team to add?
Well, but then they're right against the salary cap. So then if you want a $4 million player or more, which is what a good player costs or more, you got to shed $4 million. That's sometimes challenging. And if it's a guy that other people are going to want, then you're probably not going to deal them because they're probably playing pretty well. Unless you're trading my problem or your problem. Like a guy who's
I guess I just hate the idea of watching the team, and it's that's my team, and they kind of suck, and I'm going to continue to watch them. That's to me is crazy stuff.
Yeah, but I think you know what? But then GMs come up and do it. It's like it can't be done. I think they're just sort of risk averse and don't want to put themselves out there and sort of go with status quo. And when everyone's hanging around the playoff picture and no one's really falling out of it, the impetus to make something happen, to work to make a deal happen, is not big enough to make it go right now. And I get it. It's fun for fans to get involved in that sort of watching transactions and people get traded, and it's not fun for the players, but it's fun for the fans. It's fun for the business. And I think we probably just have to wait a little longer, closer to the deadline. Now, guys, did you get into the Brad Marchand taking a run?
Yeah. We talked about it extensively today. What do you make of the Bruins and everything surrounding them right now?
We talk Bruins are in trouble, right? They're the team on the bubble. Tampa was down there. It's not Tampa. They got so many. They got 5 games in hand on Boston. But I actually don't mind that. I don't know. I sort of glimpsed of the report. I don't know who said it, but I actually don't have a problem when you're talking about facts, and not opinions, for a player to come up on any team in any market against anyone and say, yeah, that is factually wrong. You are lying or you are misinformed. I like it. And I think it's a rallying cry in the room. Oh, wouldn't you love it to have a guy step up and you guys are full of baloney and that's garbage, and take, when he believes it to be the case. But it's another part of a noisy season and what has for a decade plus been a very quiet franchise. It's sort of been business and professional and winning and just sort of go about doing your thing. And all of a sudden this year with Swayman and all of it, it's just been a noisy year in Boston. But I like it. If I was on Boston, I'm go get him, Marshy. Tear into him.
Yep.
I will say this. There's something about the way the guy delivered the message where it seemed like he sold it well. He sold it like he legitimately had some kind of mole tell him that. Because it's
the guy who would deliver the
right. The radio.
Do you really want to be the dummy who's on radio and that comes out to be just false, and then your credibility's ruined? Or I don't know if he cares about.
Why don't we play it? Because it's been a couple hours. Let's play it quickly. This is this guy. What's the name of the show? It's in WEI in Boston.
Keefe and something.
Yeah, Keefe and anyway, whatever. The guy's name, Jones and Keefe. That's the name of the show. All right. So here's what he had to say about what he's hearing within the Bruins room these days.
First of all, what we can all see is that they're a mess on the ice, right? They've lost 6 in a row. But what I'm hearing is they're also a mess off the ice. Apparently the locker room is a disaster, and David Pastrnak is at the center of that. David Pastrnak has told the team he doesn't want to be on a line with Brad Marchand. And it may stem from Brad Marchand calling out Pastrnak for some of his play throughout the year. So Pastrnak, maybe your best player, 60-goal scorer, all that stuff. Also the main reason why it is a disaster inside the locker room.
They won't play on a line together.
Pastrnak does not want to play with Marchand.
And they're not playing together.
Well, no.
So, I mean, that's explosive commentary. Like, and he said, "I'm hearing that," but I'm with you. Like, he got that from somebody. Like,
somebody
he didn't
told
just
him
say, "I'm going to
that
make
he
something
thought
up."
was
I don't
credible.
believe that for a second. Yeah. Now, it doesn't mean
didn't make it up.
He didn't make up what he was told.
Yeah.
Now, whether it's accurate or not is a separate conversation. And I understand why the Bruins are coming out on the attack. To your point, Johnny, and I think you'd want that to be the case. But this is explosive. This is the best player, the captain. Basically saying Pasternak's a poison in the room, and it puts all eyes on Pastrnak, Marchand, and the Bruins. At a minimum, outside of the Boston market, everyone's like, "Oh, what's going on down here?" And now we'll see how they dig out of it, because regardless of what's going on in that room, they've lost 6 in a row. They're not a very good team right now.
No, I mean, that's the bottom line, right? If they're winning and they're in second place, then this guy wouldn't say this.
Very quiet.
Now it's a story because they're not playing particularly well. But you're right. I mean, they played together before. They played together for so long. To think that all of a sudden now, because Brad Marchand got on Pasta for a turnover or Pasta, I don't know. It just seems far-fetched to be true. But I can't speak at all to the merits of the story. But I just love the idea that if you think something's wrong, or not about hey, I thought that was Marchand's assignment on the back check. That's an opinion. That's just you read things.
Right.
But it's hey, this is a fact. These two guys hate each other. It's kind of like the Pettersson-Miller thing, for that matter. Right?
Yes, exactly.
If guys don't like each other, then if that's not the case, then you probably want to come out and say it. Now, Vancouver came out and said it too, and I don't think anybody in the hockey world completely kind of buys that they're telling the truth. I think they're just trying to quiet things down, and maybe that's the case in Boston, but it's been a weird year for the Bruins. The picture of sort of professionalism, the Chara, Bergeron era of just how they did their business, it's all coming apart right now in a weird way for them, because it just hasn't been the way they've behaved or performed.
No, it's up in smoke. And yet, if you're Ottawa, if you're Detroit, if you're Montreal, you better take advantage of it. Yeah,
there for you.
It's there for you. You better seize it, because if you don't, man, I would put money on Boston finding a way to restructure things properly in the future.
Like the Rangers.
Exactly.
The Rangers are not going to go away. They're better than being 14th place. They're going to be back around it. So You better take advantage of it when they're struggling, because they're not going to struggle forever.
Exactly. Enjoy it down in Pitt, Johnny. We'll do it again soon. Thank you, buddy.
All right, fellas. Have a great weekend.
Mike Johnson, our TSN Hockey analyst. Yeah, I mean, we'll see I guess he probably won't be on the air over the weekend, but they'll be on the air on Monday. And there'll be a lot of people waiting to hear this radio host reaction to the reaction of the Bruins. But I will say, listening to him, I have the same read on you as you do. He got that from somewhere. He didn't just walk into a radio studio and say, "I'm going to make something up that's incredibly explosive and we're going to tweet it." There's no chance. He got it from somewhere. Doesn't mean it's accurate.
Hayes, I know you get the same kind of messages that I do sometimes, where it's I'm hearing so-and-so, and you're like, you got to think about it a little bit, because you're like, that guy is not a dummy that sent me that, but it can be completely false.
Right.
That's why I don't do scoops or report scoops, because half of them are nonsense I get from people around Toronto.
Especially something of this magnitude, right?
Yes.
It's
like
one
if
thing...
I went to air with a bunch of the stuff that gets texted to me, I would be fired.
Right, exactly. And it's easier to be cavalier if you're in a situation where, is that yours, or are you going on? Everything okay?
It's not mine, dude. That's
all
your fire alarm,
well,
bro.
It could be noodles. I don't know what's going on, but all right, we'll come back and we'll continue with this. And Dear Hayesy-B coming up. Dear Hayesy-B, we're on fire. Maybe literally. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050. All right, here's your time. Here it is. Time to tell us where Al's brother was hiding this week. Call us right now at 416-870-1050. 416-870-1050. The first caller through with the correct location wins a pair of tickets to see the Leafs play the Devils January 16th. Do you want to announce where he is? I mean, we've known for the last couple of days.
Yeah, he's at the Elbow Room in Florida.
Yes, the Elbow Room in Fort Lauderdale.
Possibly the most overrated place in the history of
it's
National
okay.
Hockey
Like,
League.
it's a cool little spot, but
It's just a grimy place that hockey people are fascinated with. And any kind of function, Stanley Cup, draft, anything down there, it's hockey people wall to wall.
right. And we had it when we were there for the draft, I think, in 15. And it was cool.
Like,
it's a cool spot. But I remember it was tough to get drinks in there.
And trust me, I guarantee when you got there, you're like, this is what everyone talks about?
That was my reaction. Cool spot, like a bar, a cool bar, but it wasn't anything that was like so
it's
crazy.
Literally an outdoor dive bar.
That's basically what it is. That's what makes it cool.
Dudes and Florida dudes just walk up in their sandals and they hammer beers.
Right, which is cool and kind of exclusively Florida and stuff like that. Like, there is a cool vibe to that. Another chance to find Al's brother and Windleaf tickets starts next week right here on OverDrive. Brought to you by McAlpine Ford in Aurora, our family, the Ford family, and you. All right, we're going to get to Dear Hayesy-B here in a moment. Do you want to see and hear this Jim Taddy, Wendel Clark return to the Gardens clip? We have it for you.
Oh, my God, do I? I probably want to see it 5 times.
Okay, let's
Forget about Hayesy-B.
Yeah, forget Dear Hayesy-B. Let's just play the Tapman and Wendel returning to the Gardens.
Very exciting, very new in some ways again, anxious and a bit nervous in a way. It's been 2 years, and so it's I'm an 11-year rookie.
Welcome to the inside of the house that Conn Smythe built, and there will be no denying in a few seconds that this is Wendel Clark's home. There are no questions about the pictures and the sound as Wendel Clark makes his Maple Leaf return.
Tapman on fire. There's Wendel coming out. Not quite last, but pretty veteran move. The pop he got when he jumped on the ice at the Gardens was incredible. And his skating, how many times did you mimic his skating as a kid?
Oh, yeah.
The
Side-to-side shuffle.
Always the shuffle, the big arms. We used to do that at practice as kids all the time. Pretend to be Wendel. So good. Melon and
What
Friday's
a scene set from Tapman.
Wasn't that perfect?
What a job.
The house that Conn Smythe built, and then the sights and scenes as Wendel returns.
That's a veteran.
So veteran. Mailed in Fridays brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. This January at BP, get delicious, mouth-watering pastas starting at $11.99 every single day. Enjoy the pastas you love at prices you can't miss. Hustle in your local BP tonight. All right, let's get to a couple of Dear Hayesy-B's. Just the best. Just a couple. Let's play the intro.
Insight, the ability to see and understand why you do the things you do.
Dear Hayesy-B.
We're going to go down there and have a donkey barbecue, and I'm going to furnish the ass, right?
You don't want to hide a Mars bar in your sleeping bag when there's a bear outside the tent.
You know what we do? We help people. And I think we've had something similar to this one because it's a common occurrence amongst dudes and what they do and where they go and how they get there. My good friend is getting married this summer, and I'm a groomsman on the big day. For his bachelor party, we have a group of 15 gentlemen going to an all-inclusive golf resort in Minnesota. The majority of us going live in Saskatchewan and plan to drive down and back for the weekend. A good 11-hour hike. Jesus. I'm already concerned about the morbidly hungover 11-hour drive home on Sunday. Conveniently, however, the groom's brother, who's also the best man, lives in Lethbridge and is flying into Minnesota and renting a car to meet us at the golf resort. Is it a greasy move if I drive down with the crew, but instead of driving back, I catch a lift to the airport on Sunday with the groom's brother and jump on the first bird home to Minnie? Your wisdom is needed.
Absolutely not greasy whatsoever. All right.
Not?
Not at all.
Dude, you understand, Hazy, there's some old school guys trip guys who are like, we all go down and we all go back. And we're hungover and we got to get a greasy breakfast, and that's what dudes do.
I'm sorry. I totally disagree. I'm a believer at the end of it all, it's an Irish goodbye, and you find your way home whichever way you choose, man. It's again, like I've said before, it's like wartime rules, man. You do whatever you have to do to survive at the end of one of those trips. And if that means you got to fly, I got buddies who have disappeared out of nowhere, like
and
second
texted
day.
And said, I'm already home?
Absolutely. Texted and said, guys, I'm at the airport. See you later. And it's like, all right, man. Like, couldn't, just had enough and was like, I got to get out. I've done the drive before.
But dude, are those the guy that leaves like after 2 days? Is he like pedal to the metal and absolutely flooring it from the get-go?
Yes, exactly. Takes it way too far, too early, can't recover anymore, and just has a moment of truth. You know, wakes up on the second or third day and goes, "I got to get out of here. I can't be here anymore." I think if you're 20 years old, it's different. There's camaraderie. It's, hey, we're all in this together. We all have to drive. We all have to chip in for gas. You get into your 30s and 40s, I'm sorry, I'm not running anything past you. If I want to leave, I'm leaving. And if you have a problem with that, fine. I just won't come to the next one.
Dude, I used to drive all over North America. Like, I'm not kidding. In my driving days, Vancouver World Juniors, I would have driven to Vancouver. And I'm not kidding.
Right.
I'm not
absurd,
kidding.
Man.
Which is crazy. To think it's a 3-hour trip on the Bird?
Yeah.
Didn't you have a goofy story where you saw one of your buddies in a kind of a bachelor, and you saw him in the morning, you're like, "Hey, man, how's it going? When did you get here?" And the guy was like, "What are you talking about? I've already seen you."
Yeah, that was in Nashville. That was that was a tough night. Because Nashville, man. It was one of those things. You're out in the afternoon and yeah, he had flown in the night before. He got there late.
You had chitter chatter with one of your homies, and you saw him in the morning. You're like, "Hey, bro, when did you get here?" And the guy was like, "Are you serious, man?"
Yeah, I was Phil from Wayne's World. He's like, "Phil, like we were there. You and I were talking last night." And I'm like, "I don't remember seeing you at all." That was when you realize, you're like, "What the hell happened last night?" You wake up in your room and you're like, "All right, everything's all good." Like I got home, I fell asleep, I woke up, and you move on with your life. But he was like flabbergasted. Like
he probably was like this.
Because if you're the last one in, you're sober and you're catching up, and everyone's been having a great time.
The guys the guys that have been grinding since 10 a.m. are wasted.
It's a zombie. Like it's a weird vibe when you show up like late into an already day shift kind of thing, and you're like that's where you get. Some guys will just show up and say, "You know what, I made the wrong call." Not if you're flying somewhere or something like that. But if you get called in, let's say, you're in the GTA, guys went golfing, they said, "Come meet you for dinner." I wouldn't be surprised if guys showed up, looked in, saw everyone pinned, and they said, "I'm not doing this. I'm going home." Like, I'm not getting involved. I can't catch up to that. It's buffoonery. There's too much craziness going on in there. I'm not doing it.
Dude, it's crazy how the trips kind of change as you get older. Like, I'm 48 years old. I don't even drink. I went golfing in December, 9 o'clock. I said, "Good night, chum." And my buddy goes, "Good night, pal." And the lights went off
Happily.
Dude, 9 o'clock.
Happily. Well, and my thing is like golf trips, because every year I get into it with buddies, like, we got to do this, we do that. We never end up following up.
Golf trips are two things. It's like, are you going drinking or are you going golfing?
And I just want to go golf.
It ain't both. That's
exactly. I want to play 36. Like, that would be my thing. Like, let's tee off at 8 and let's tee off at 2. And then go for dinner, and then I would just want to go to sleep.
That's it.
But the problem is you get guys in there that have their eyes on a different prize, and you're like, I don't know.
You can't do both, man, because those are the guys that either miss the tee time or they can't golf. You're stuck with and I was that guy for a lot of years.
Yeah, no,
I could pin it, man, till 2 a.m. and tee it up at 6 a.m. All right, speaking in Nashville, Dear Hayesy-B, I'm a bartender on Broadway in Nashville.
Ooh.
I was working the other night, and a table came in that was quite clearly on a first date. They paid separately, but the girl wrote her number on the bill and told me to call her.
Ooh.
What do I do?
So he has a good read on it that was a first date.
He smelt it from a mile away.
And
he's seen this thing. Everyone knows
it's
what
fair game, man. Like if you were picking up on a vibe and you're in on it, I think you make the call. Honestly, I don't think there's any rule. Like, it'd be different if it was, why would they pay separately, though, if there was a long-term relationship anyway? The idea of going on a date and I don't know,
think
maybe
what
I'm
this
old
guy's
school,
fear is that maybe she's got eyeballs for everybody at all times.
Well, and that could be. That doesn't mean you have to follow through. I'm not saying you have to call this woman. I don't know who she is. But if the fear is like, well, am I mowing lawns here or stepping on toes? I don't think so if it's a first date. Honestly, the issue might have been that it was hey, can we split the check? That might have led her to be like, I'm not doing another date with this guy.
Dude, have you ever pulled that stunt in your life?
Never
Please
in
tell
my
me.
life. Again, I've been married for a long time. I've been with my wife for years, but I don't remember ever thinking, why don't you, can we split the check on a date? That is
Guys,
wild
I'm warning
to me.
you right now. If it ever creeps into your head that you're going to split a check on a date, you got to snap out of it immediately.
You have to pay, boys.
Dude, it's
don't
an
let that
instant,
get away from us.
Get out of my life.
Yes.
Like you are so gassed after that.
Step
it's not
up
even
and pay.
funny.
That's the way it goes. Our dads did it. Their dads did it. Their dads did it before that. You step up and you pay.
Dear Hayesy-B, I play my dad's member guest every March in Florida. He's been texting me all fall about his low rounds. Played with him twice over the holidays, and he self-gave every 5-footer that he had. Ooh. At least 8 of them. How do I tell him his vanity cap is going to kill us?
You're stuck. I know exactly what you're going through. That means you're going to be in a different group than you should be in, right? Because usually
a flight, you mean?
A different flight. That's right, a different flight, because the flights are worked on the accumulation of the caps, and you're already done, and you know you're done, because once you get in to matches with other lunatics at golf courses, I know this from my own experience, they're going to make him putt every 5-footer. You're never getting a 5-footer for free at a member guest, ever.
No.
And if he can't make them, and he hasn't been
then he's
working
putting
on
literally everything, man.
Then, exactly, and once he starts really showing, okay, he's sawing the edge off, he's got the whiskey mitts, they're going to make him putt 3-footers. Dude. And all's fair in game, and you're supposed to be a code there where if it's a gimme, it's a gimme, a universal kind of, especially in something like that at a member guest. It is supposed to be fun. But a 2.5-footer, you got to putt. And if it's downhill and the match is on the line, you definitely got to putt it. And if he can't do it, man, he can't do it. Because that is where the vanity caps, that is 90% of vanity caps are those scenarios. Guys are like, I'll take it. I'm picking it. It's like, watch it, man. That's 1 or 2 strokes around. That's going to affect your cap.
Yeah,
if you're not putting 5 and 6 footers.
That's where whispering comes into play at golf tournaments like member guests. We're walking to the cart, and your guy's back on the green, and your playing competitors say, how the hell is your guy an 8 handicap?
Exactly. That's
like, you're doomed, man. You're doomed.
You're doomed, man. And listen, I've been on it both sides, in the middle. Because sometimes you play really well. Like, so, your cap is what it is, and sometimes you play great, and then the other guy's like, oh, is that a real cap or is that a bogus cap? You're a sandbagger. But the vanity cap's pretty easy to pick up. If a guy's uncomfortable or if a guy's pushing, hey, is that a gimme? I'll give you that if you give me this. That's clue number 1. Good. That guy doesn't want to make that putt. All right, TSN wants you to be our unofficial correspondent at the grittiest golf event of the year. Here's how you enter. Download the iHeartRadio app, create an account, and listen to TSN 1050 for at least 15 minutes straight. Once you hit 15 minutes, follow the prompts to complete your entry. Whether it's 15 minutes of First Up or 15 minutes of Overdrive, the more you listen, the better your chances. And on January 20th, First Up will be calling one listener with a trip for 2 to the Waste Management Open in Arizona. Full details at tsn1050.ca. The Sony continues. They're just teeing off, a lot of these guys.
I love nighttime weekend
golf,
man.
I love it, man.
I love it as a backup because you can watch a hockey game and then you're like, they're on 9 right now, and I get 9 through 18, a feature group, and I love it.
I did that last night. I was watching the Leaf game, flipped over, like Matsuyama was coming home, Nick Taylor was coming home.
I think Rolf loves this course more than the Sentry.
He does, but he doesn't like some of the work they've done on it recently. He was all bent out of shape about the.
No, I know,
think the green
dude, but
17.
this course, he'll find he'll be like, that little pond there. When I was 17, I took a piss in it when I was hammered, and like he loves this. He loves it.
You know what he loves establishing too? His island in Hawaii.
Dude, he always says, this is my island.
This is my island here, because there's some amateur that's Hawaiian that's in it, and he's like, that kid's from my island. I'm like, what island are you talking about, Rolf?
Yeah, like
figure
Rolf.
it out. Nobody cares, man.
Dude,
but
he's so into it, man.
He loves it.
So into it.
He loves it. Yeah, it's good, man. It's we'll see what comes of it. The Sony this weekend. Come back with our best bets, brought to you by FanDuel, and wrap up the week. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All All right, today's Best Bets powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Hayes and Bro, you know where we're at. We're on the Chargers laying the points and the Bucks laying the points.
Moronic.
We love where we're at. Both of them a 3-point spread. Favorite on the road, favorite at home. Lock it in. That parlay is paying plus money. Today's Best Bets powered by FanDuel. And that's the place to be for NFL playoffs, man. FanDuel's got everything covered. It is a thing of beauty once you get to the NFL playoffs, and they start tomorrow, of course, on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. So it's been a good one today.
You don't like any of our picks? Is that what you're telling me?
I would have taken the Steelers. Alice Brother and I saw it differently. That's why we avoided that game. I'll be honest, I'm not feeling great about the Packers. Like I don't love the way they're playing right now, and yet they've been a good team this year. And can they keep it close, 4.5?
They were also good last year.
They were really good last year, especially in the playoffs. They turned it up, but I don't know. I don't know. The Bills, Denver's got a good defense. Patrick Surtain's going to cut off half of the field. I just feel like rookie quarterback in Buffalo in the playoffs could be scary. Like the Bills could win 41-10. Like they might. I don't think they'll put up 41 points, but 27-10 and cover. Mailed In Friday was brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar this January at BP. Get delicious, mouth-watering pasta starting at $11.99 every single day. Enjoy the pastas you love at the prices you can't miss. Hustle in your local BP tonight. That is precisely what we're doing tomorrow, hitting the Boston Pizza after a little hockey. We can't wait for it. All right, great stuff for everyone behind the scenes. We appreciate all your help. Everyone for tuning in today. TV, radio, podcast, web, we appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy your weekends. We're back Monday at...
Chesko, it was a great chat. We'll do it again soon. 4 p.m.
We'll chat then.